Hey ho yo, welcome to the channel, bro. My name is Mark Roden. Welcome back. Today we're going to be doing a good, bad, and ugly on the Volkswagen new Beetle. Why? I don't know. Somebody said that they wanted to see a good, bad, and ugly on this car, and I was like, yeah, all right, I'll do that. So here it is. We're doing a freaking good, bad, and ugly on the Volkswagen Beetle. They're pretty cool cars, actually. Doing research on them, I actually kind of started liking them more and more. If you guys want to support the channel any more than you already are, head on over to www.smoothstance.com/shop. Pick yourself up a hat. This isn't the hat, but a hat, shirt, or some shorts. And with that out of the way, guys, let's get right into the good, the bad, and the ugly of the Volkswagen Beetle. Alright, so the new Beetle, yes, it's called the new Beetle, I don't know why, is the second generation of a car that seemed like it was going to never stop being produced. It was built from the years 1998 to 2011, and through that time, it went through one facelift that is honestly super hard to even tell that they made a change, but I'm going to put it on the screen for you guys anyway. The car also has a bunch of different engine options depending on what country and trim level that you get, but for the sake of this video, we are only going to be talking about the North American market and the cars that they got, because that's where I live, so that's what I'm going to be talking about. I'm sorry if you live somewhere else, but in the good old US of A, we got the base model, the TDI, and the Turbo S models, which all had different engine options for them. The base model came with a 2-liter inline-4 that made only 115 horsepower. The TDI came with a 1.9-liter turbo diesel inline-4, making only 100 horsepower on the dot, but I'm going to be honest, this one has to be my favorite anyways because it's a freaking diesel motor that's in a Volkswagen Beetle, which is just awesome. Plus, they're also pretty good at tuning. And the Turbo S model came with a 1.8-liter turbocharged inline-4, making 150 horsepower, which was obviously the best in terms of performance right out of the gate. But most people would rather modify the TDI due to the good tuning potential that the car has. Now, this car was offered as either a coupe, and it actually had a convertible option as well, which is pretty sick if I do say so myself. For the drivetrain, sadly, this car was only available as a front-wheel drive, and it was offered with either a manual or an automatic transmission for it, and you better get the manual one because this is just like a fun little car to drive in a manual. This car also had one very cool, like, one-off special edition kind of car, and I usually don't talk about like limited edition versions of the cars in the good, the bad, and ugly, but this one's just so cool, so I had to. It's called the Beetle RSI, and that one came with a freaking 3.2-liter VR6 that made 220 horsepower, and it was kitted up with all these sick body parts on it and different suspension parts on it, but only a few of those were even made, so they're very rare. You're probably not going to be able to buy one, but they're still super cool cars. I just wanted to put them out there. They're awesome little Beetle race cars. Alright, now we're going to be talking about the modifying world for these cars, and to be honest with you, it's kind of all over the place. The only form of motorsport that this car doesn't compete in is drifting, because it was front-wheel drive, of course, but just about everything else it is used for quite equally, to be honest. If you want to do a rally build, you absolutely can, because there are people who have done it. If you want to do a drag build, you absolutely can. Track days? Forget about it. And of course, since we live in the 21st century where the internet is a thing, there are plenty of people who decided to slam these things on the ground as well. I have a coworker who has one that's lifted with a hood exit exhaust, and the thing is freaking rowdy. Pretty much your imagination is the limit with these cars. Just don't expect to do any crazy engine swaps because the engine bay is a little bit small, and you'll be all set. Literally, you can do anything that you want. Obviously, I would argue that the most popular version of it is the track builds. People usually would go for track builds. In the old Beetles, they would do drag builds all the time because they were super lightweight, but these new ones, they're just not the same. Alright, so finally into the good, the bad, and the ugly. And the way this works, in case you're new here, is first we go over the good parts about the car. Things are just handy, dandy, mandy, fantastic about the car. Then we go into the bad, which are things that are kind of up to you. It's a take it or leave it scenario. If it affects you, then that's bad. If it doesn't affect you, then it doesn't matter. And then we get into the ugly, which are things that are just bad about the car, and you can't lie. They're problems that you're going to have to address. But we're going to start with the good, because I'm in a happy-go-lucky mood, and of course, right off the bat is the numbers. I know this is a very weird topic I usually don't discuss, but this car is everywhere. So if you want one, it's not going to be hard for you to find it at all. Next is the uniqueness. Not a lot of people modify these cars. So if you want to be a little bit different than this, then this is a good choice. And since most of the other Volkswagen parts bolt right onto this car, it's not going to be hard to build either. Next is the reliability. It's actually, next is the reliability. It's actually quite reliable if you drive it like a grandma. Once you start to play with it, though, it isn't going to be the best choice. Next is the price. The market is a little bit weird for these cars, but you can find them for under $5,000 all day, which is a pretty decent deal. It's pretty reliable. Next is they are light. So even though this car doesn't make the biggest horsepower numbers, it doesn't have to. It handles like a go-kart, which can be fun depending on who you are. Next is the freedom that you have with it. This is a big one. Most people, they buy a car, then they feel like they have to build it the certain way that everybody else does. But with a Volkswagen Beetle, there really isn't enough people building them a certain way to make it seem like you have to build it accordingly. And that must be pretty cool. Next, these cars are actually quite safe too. You wouldn't expect it since they are such like small little go-karts, but they can take a beating and they're going to protect you while doing it. It actually has a very good safety rating. And finally, for the good, is this car has got to have one of the coolest communities around it. Sure, they are very small, but they don't care if your car is bone stock or not. They're going to accept you no matter what. It reminds me a lot of like the Mini Cooper or like the Mazda Miata communities. They know their cars are small little like meme cars and they embrace that. Now we are into the bad, and once again, like I said before, these are kind of take it or leave it things. Right off the bat is the sound. Obviously, this is going to change based on the engine that you decide to get, but I always leave this one up to you guys, so here you go. Here's a sound clip. Next is the fact they are front-wheel drive. I know a rear-wheel drive Volkswagen Beetle doesn't really make any sense, but I just don't like front-wheel drive, to be honest, so I put it in the bad. A lot of people don't really care for front-wheel drive, but if you don't mind it, then there you go. Next is the space that you get. It's a small car, so if you have like a big family or a lot of friends, it might not be the best choice. It does have decent space, but nothing crazy. Next is the power windows tend to break pretty easily, which happens a lot in these older cars, but it's still a problem nonetheless. Next is the power out of the gate is nothing special. Yes, you can modify these cars, especially the TDI, but if you just wanted a fun car out of the gate, you're a little bit out of luck, my boy. Next is the aftermarket support is almost non-existent besides engine mods. Since it shares engines with other Volkswagens, you can put those mods on it, but in terms of like cosmetic mods or suspension mods, there's really not that much out there for these cars. Next is this car is not a clout mobile. If you want people to turn heads, if you want to get all the attention in the world, this is not going to be the best choice out there for you. Personally, buying a car for clout only, in my opinion, is one of the stupidest things you could do. You're going to end up hating that car. But if you want to, if you for some reason just love the clout that much, then this is not a great choice. Next is the cup holders, man. I hate when a car has bad cup holders, and this one does. They aren't terrible, they aren't the worst, and they still do have cup holders, which is better than some cars, but they're nothing great. Next is the looks. I mean, I personally think that they look different, and that in of itself makes it cool, but most people will probably just think that they're too like girly looking and not really like them. Personally, though, I think it's unique. And finally, for the bad is the interior quality. It isn't great, but it also isn't horrible for a 2000s car. Some cars age well in terms of interiors and some don't. Personally, I think this one didn't, but I know a lot of people will probably disagree with me on that and say that they did. So just take a look at the interior thing. Take it for a test drive. Make sure that you are comfortable with the interior before you buy one. Now we are finally into the ugly, which are just bad things about the car that you can't deny are a problem. And there are 2 points that I need to make, so stick with me. First off is some of these engines that it does come with can be very unreliable. Engine ticking, oil leaks, and check engine lights are something that you're going to have to get used to. But on the other hand, the TDI is quite reliable if kept stock, which actually is going to lead me into my next point. These cars aren't the best for tuning. It's just like a normal Volkswagen in the way that if you want to start to mod them, they will not like it very much and will become unreliable. I know some of the things I've said about reliability with this car kind of contradict each other, but it seems to me that it's kind of a gamble on if you're going to get a reliable one or not, which is very weird. It doesn't really happen in a lot of cars. But to me, through all the research that I've done, it seems like some people like them for their reliability, and then the people that modify them don't like them for their reliability, but then the people are like, oh, well, the TDI is a great platform to modify, so I honestly don't know 100%, but in my opinion, it looks like it isn't the best car to mod in terms of reliability. So, do I think that you should get the Volkswagen new Beetle? Well, kind of. I mean, it is something completely different than what you normally see modified, and after watching this video, I kind of want to build one myself, but at the same time, they just don't seem to be the best choice in really anything. They seem to be a good choice in most things, but not the best. It's not reliable enough or big enough to be a daily driver. It's not fast enough to be a drag car. There's not enough aftermarket support to be a show car. However, if you like the looks of the new Beetle and you want to build it, it absolutely can be done, and I think you are going to have a blast building it as long as you can come to terms with the fact that this is not the best car. And that's okay. A lot of cars out there don't have to be the best. That's what made the Miata so freaking perfect. It's not the best in anything. It's just cool. The 350Z, I like it. It's not the best in anything. It's just cool. That's what it is about these cars. You got to realize that none of your cars are going to be perfect. And the Beetle really kind of shows that. But ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of today's good, bad, and ugly. Let me know what cars you want to see next. Also, I hope you guys are enjoying the green screen. We got that up again. We're going to keep it up. Obviously, I hooked it up to the roof up there. So we're going to end up keeping it up there every time. It should hopefully come in handy. Oh, boy. The Volkswagen new Beetle, this was a fun one to make, to be honest, because it's not like a car that's like so underrated that there's nothing out there about it, but it's definitely an underrated car, you know what I mean? Like, people always tell me like, oh, well, I want to see the Toyota Serra. Well, the Toyota Serra is so underrated to the point where like there's really not enough evidence out there for me to even make a video on this car and give an educated opinion on it, because of how little people actually even know they exist. The Volkswagen new Beetle, everybody knows exists, but nobody really cares for it. It's just like a little underrated Volkswagen. So it was like a perfect one. So if you guys want to see more cars similar to this one, let me know in the comments down below. Also, I hope you enjoyed. If you did, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And with that out of the way, boys, das vidanya, and have a nice night.